Welcome to another episode of the Girl About the Globe podcast. Today I'm joined by Sahara Rose De Vore, who's an author, TEDx speaker, and founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network. Sahara has been solo travelling since 2010, and she joins me to discuss everything solo travel. If you're looking for some solo travel tips, especially about solo travelling on a budget, this episode is for you. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you as a solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact.
Welcome to another episode of the Girl About the Globe podcast. Today I'm joined by Sahara Rose De Vore, author, TEDx speaker, and founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network. Sahara has been solo travelling since 2010 and joins me to discuss everything solo travel. Welcome, Sahara. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. But before we dive into all your solo travel tips, tell us more about your solo travel journey and where it all began.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up someone traveling very much. People in my family didn't travel for business. There's no such, I never heard about it. No one really took vacation. Our extent of traveling was to pack in the family van, and we would drive from Wisconsin, where I'm from, down to southern Texas and over the border to Mexico. My grandmother's family was from there and lived there. And so I was so small, I remember bits and pieces of that. And then we would also do the same thing up to the French region of Canada, which is where my grandfather's family was from. But I don't remember any of that. So vacation just wasn't something that we thought about much. I'm an only child to a single mom, and growing up, money was always really tight. So if we did go on a vacation, like my mom took me to Disneyland, or we did a trip to Punta Cana when I was in high school, but it was always centered around, like, it was really expensive. So if you're going to go, you can only go once a year. So travel to me wasn't something that I felt like was very attainable. But it wasn't until my third year of university, I struggled for a really long time to figure out a career path. I have a lot of interests, there's a lot of skills that I have, but there's nothing I was like, well, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life for a career. And so I jumped around different majors, but then my third year of university, I was moving back across country. Um, to the Midwest, and I had a very small window of time to find a new school to go to. And doing research, I came across a tourism and hospitality program, and something clicked, and I was like, "Hey, travel, that sounds fun. Who doesn't, want to travel?" And I do remember in high school, I had heard about this thing called backpacking Europe. And so my best friend and I at the time were like, when we graduate, we're going to skip a year and we're going to go traveling. And of course, that's not going to happen. Our parents are like, no. And our relationship kind of fell out. So in the back of my mind was always this idea to go backpacking. And because I didn't have anyone to go with and I'm used to being on my own, when I graduated university after 2 years in that program in 2010, I knew that I wanted to travel. I had saved enough money traveling because I was working so many jobs during my last 2 years of school. But I knew that I didn't want to just find any job, especially, I've learned so many different career roles and jobs in the industry through my degree. And I was living in the big city of Chicago, where there's a lot of opportunities, but I knew that choosing any job or just climbing the corporate ladder wasn't going to be for me. It wasn't going to make me happy. And I was already struggling with depression and really bad anxiety that I've always struggled with. And so I knew that making that choice it wasn't going to make me any happier than I was. I didn't know what I was looking for out of happiness. And so that's when I decided to book a one-way ticket to Ireland, and I packed a backpack, and then my adventures started from there.
I love it. I love your story of just going to Ireland. And I like the fact that you said before that you were a broke college student and now you travel to 84 countries solo.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you make that happen? It was when you were at college and you were doing all those jobs, was that primarily to save to travel?
Yeah. So like I said, I am an only child to a single mom who she is in real estate. So I remember in 2008 when the market crashed, she was also going through a divorce. And, she was going through hard times, and I was moving to Chicago. So that was the first time that I really had to put take care of myself financially. And I very much underestimated how hard it is to, take care of yourself financially. I was a little bit naive because my mom always just kind of, paid things for me. And Chicago's not cheap. And so I had $1,000 rent at the time, which now is cheap. Back then it wasn't.
What's it like back then? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so I remember in my first class in that university, in that tourism program, it was an international tourism class. And we went around the room and just introduced ourselves and talked about, how many countries we've been to. And I sat here with I know I've been to Canada. I don't remember. I've been to Mexico very young, and I've been to Dominican Republic, and that's all. And that was like an all-inclusive vacation, which is to me not really, much of a meaningful trip. But all these kids in my class were foreign exchange students, and they were from Asia or South America, and they were talking about how they've been to 5, 10, 20 countries. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize it was so easy to travel that way. It really sparked something inside me to say, I want to go and do that. I want to see other places. And I sat there as this broke college student and be like, how am I going to do that? I can't turn to my mom to help me. I have no one else to help me. And I'm not someone who looks to anyone to help me in any way. I'm very kind of independent that way, where if I'm going to do something, I want to be able to do it myself. And I knew that I needed to change my money mindset. And I took a look at all my expenses. I took a look at, what were my streams of income. I was full-time in school still. I had 2 more years, and I decided to fill my schedule around my school with anything that I could to make money. So I was joining staffing companies so that I had options. They'd email me or call me and say, hey, I have this opportunity, this much money. Could you do it? Am I free? Okay, I would take a look. And there were fun things too. I got to work at conferences and trade shows and candy events and all this stuff, which were great. I got $20 an hour to do these really fun things. I was selling some of my art on the side. I was finding furniture in our recycling room of our apartment building, and I would fix them up and I would sell them on Craigslist. And so I was making, $10, $20, $50 here and there. That way I was babysitting a lot. I love kids. So I would babysit and nanny quite a bit. And then I got into the restaurant industry in Chicago. You have to be 21, and I was only 20 when I moved there. And that was quite lucrative. I was at really nice restaurants. And so after a while, I was able to kind of not do any of those other jobs if I didn't want to. I still, every now and then, babysat or worked at a conference or, sold my art if I wanted to. But I made quite a bit of money working in the restaurants, but I had to save it. I was working so much that I wasn't spending my money. My goal was to save it for traveling. And that's how I ended up. By the 2 years later in 2010, I had a good chunk of money saved up once I graduated, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to book my first trip. But with that said, I also traveled. In order to travel to 84 countries on my own dollar without ever running out of money, I had to travel. I traveled on a very tight budget. So I did a lot of sleeping in airports, taking long, long bus rides. So anything that was able to make the dollar stretch, I would do.
That's the way to do it, isn't it? Take the overnight buses and overnight trains, because then that's your
I actually really enjoyed the long buses. It was some of my, I have so many memories from, those bus rides that, other people don't get to share.
Yeah. I actually think when you travel on a budget, you have more adventure. Tell us about that first trip to Ireland. I imagine it was quite an empowering trip for you.
Yeah. Well, people always ask me, why did you choose Ireland? So because I was going to Western Europe, I bought a Eurail pass, which I don't think those exist anymore now. But it was for a month and a half. I could go to a list of 30 countries, I think it was 28 countries, something like that. And I started in Ireland because, one, I was trying to find a more affordable destination to fly into from Chicago. So Amsterdam, Dublin, Barcelona, London, those were some of the more Brussels, the more affordable flights. And then I looked at the map and I was like, well, Ireland is like further out. So I'll start there and then I'll work my way into the mainland. And so that's kind of my thought process around it. And also, my mom was dating someone at the time who had an old friend from he used to work with who lived now in Ireland. She was from there with her family, and they agreed to let me come stay with them for a few days. And so I thought that was a nice buffer for my very first solo trip to be able to stay with a family um, in Ireland for just a couple days. I think I was there for 5 days maybe, and then go on my way. And so that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because then you actually there and you have a little bit of a base, and then you're meeting someone, and then you get that confidence and can go off by yourself, can't you? What words of advice do you have for women who want to travel the world but want to follow in your footsteps and only have a tiny budget?
Yeah, I think that if you put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, but also don't overly plan, because oftentimes the best experiences that we get or the best memories we make happened in spontaneity, moments of spontaneity. And I find that quite common with people. They'll plan a very strict itinerary and down to every single detail. But when you overly plan, that kind of leaves room for you to, because if there's an unknown, you could lose money out on money. And that's
Mhm.
happened. So like I remember booking a couple budget flights at a time, thinking I'm gonna go from, Japan to Taiwan, Taiwan to Vietnam, Vietnam to Philippines. But then I was in Taiwan and a typhoon went through the Philippines. So I had to cancel, and didn't get my money back from my other flights because they were just very small budget flights. So same thing with accommodations, they were overly booked or whatever it might be. So I feel like if you have a looser itinerary and are open, push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And what I mean by that is maybe try a hostel. I loved staying in hostels.
Yeah.
I met some of my favorite people in them, friends that I'm still friends with to this day. There's really fun hostels, really pretty hostels. Hostel is just a very general term. And that's a really good way, depending on what region of the world you're in, to have really affordable accommodations. Granted, yes, you might go to parts of Europe or certain cities where you might as well just get a private hotel room because it's pretty comparable. But there's also places where, for free $5 a night to get a bed in a bunk room. You might also have the whole bunk room to yourself, which has happened to me a lot because I was in off seasons. And I'm like, great, $5 and I get this giant room, my own bathroom, perfect.
Bargain. Yeah.
So, trying different things like that or trying a bus ride instead of taking a flight somewhere, try it doesn't maybe you're not comfortable with an overnight bus, which is okay, but trying a bus, they're so affordable and you get to see things that you usually don't get to see or experiences you usually don't get to experience. And that's really what travel is all about, getting outside of your comfort zone and being in places where there's new cultures and new ways of doing things. And to be able to experience that makes your entire experience so much richer.
What is it that you really love about solo travel?
To me, it's a sense of freedom of I can go where I want, do what I want. I don't have to accommodate to anyone else or plan around anyone else or have to have someone else agree with what my plans are for the day, because I'm someone who I wake up when I want to wake up to when I was traveling. I want to walk around town, I want to get coffee, I want to go to the beach. And I'm a beach bum. I like to stay in the sun and in the beach a little bit longer than most people like to do. I'll sit there all day with a book or a journal. So I'll walk around town a little bit more, go get some food. So I just wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do. So I had that sense of freedom to be able to do that. But also just the fact that I was enriching my life and myself in a way that I don't think you really can get outside of travel. So I was really learning about who I am and making I felt like the most out of my life by being able to see these different places and have different experiences and really collect these different memories. Um, Made me feel like I was doing something in my life, even though I didn't have a career path yet and I didn't have, anything I was really dedicating my time to. I really allowed myself till I was 30 years old to just enjoy my travels.
I think that's the best way to do it though, because you're discovering yourself. And the best way to discover yourself is by solo travel, I think, because it takes you completely out your comfort zone and you learn what you don't want and then edge a bit closer to what you do want. And it definitely makes you grow, doesn't it? In self-esteem and self-worth. And I know earlier you mentioned about having a bit of anxiety as well. So I think that's
Yeah.
inspiring for people who may have a bit of anxiety and a bit worried about traveling alone, knowing that you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, I'm someone who I like to kind of break the norm. So whatever the norm is of something, I usually go against the grain. I'm an only
Um,
child, all the stigma around being an only child or whatever it might be, like I just don't fit the mold of what's typical. So yes, I've grown up with an anxiety disorder and but I didn't let that hold me back. Instead, it actually pushed me more towards traveling because I was not happy in living a daily routine. And, I knew that I wasn't going to be happy in the corporate world, um, or working for someone else who, there's days I don't want to go to work. There's days that I don't want to,
yeah,
or I want to go on a vacation and now I'm limited on how long I can go for. I didn't want that for my life. And I'm a big believer that you can really design and sculpt your life how you want, but it's all your decisions and it's all your actions. If you try hard enough to make that happen. And I knew that why do this if that wasn't going to make me happy? I don't need to experience it to know that sitting in a corporate job is not going to make me happy, or being told I can only go on one vacation a year was not going to make me happy. I don't want to live with regrets. So I knew that um, I wanted just to be able to go and have these experiences and shape my life and see where it led me. And it led me to, what I do today, which I didn't know, but having the anxiety kind of pushed me towards all of that. And yeah, it was a struggle at times, but I learned more about myself. I knew that big, busy cities was not my thing. I didn't like being around crowded spaces. It made me anxious. I didn't like all the attention on me all the time. But there's things with travel you just have to deal with because you are, the foreigner in other countries. But I learned, what I was capable of and what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy. And that helped me figure out what places I wanted to go to and where I wanted to spend more time. So I'd go to places where it was a lot quieter and I kind of just fit in with the locals a little bit more. No one paid attention to me because they're just going about their daily life. And I can spend a lot of time in nature, which was important for me.
that's so amazing. Yeah, because you don't have to follow the mainstream cities, do you? And you can if you want, but there's so many places in the world that you can go to, and especially places that are a bit more underdeveloped and actually need the tourism rather than the over tourism in some of the most popular cities. So
Yeah.
now you're the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network, which is a global community of travel coaches. What made you want to create the world's first and only ICF accredited certification program for travel coaches? I'm guessing that stems from your travel journey.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I still struggled for a really long time, almost a decade, to figure out what my career path was going to be after university. So, I had this degree in hospitality and tourism management, which I studied for 2 years there. And still, upon graduating, I was like, I don't want to work in hotels. I don't want to be a flight attendant. I don't want to be a travel agent and book trips. I don't want to do anything I'd heard about. So I started traveling. And during those years, there was the impact that social media had on travel, technology had on travel. There was new jobs came about or new paths like influencers or bloggers or travel writers, but and then travel agents went to travel advisors, but none of that still satisfied. I didn't want to do any of that. I'm not that big on writing. My anxiety does not allow me to enjoy booking trips for people, and it just wasn't what I found joy in. And actually, oddly enough, have a bit of a fear of flying. So I didn't want to live on an airplane as a flight attendant. And hotels never interested me. So I was like, I have all this love and knowledge of travel. How come there's nothing else I can do out there? I haven't found anything else. I've been learning and just, figuring this out for the past over a decade now. What there has to be something more. And like I said, I allowed myself to, I was 30 just to enjoy my travels. I never worked while I traveled. I'd come back home if I wanted to make more money and stuff. But when I was 30 came about, and I was like, okay, I'll finally figure out what do I want to do for a career path. So it was the first time I bought a little notepad laptop thing. I was traveling throughout north of Spain, and I was sitting down in a hostel communal room, and I started Googling like how to start an online business. What are people doing online? What are people doing online in the travel space? Or in general. And that was the first time I came about the coaching industry. I'd never needed a coach or considered a coach before. But I saw life coaches, health coaches, wellness, business coaches. And I was like, wow, this coaching world is really a thing. And something inside me clicked, and I said, I want to be a travel coach. What did that look like? I didn't know. But again, I'm not someone, I don't need approval to do anything. I am
Right.
someone I'll figure it out on my own. So I decided, as I was building what kind of travel coaching business I wanted, which I decided I was really passionate about wellness travel, and in particular for the corporate world. Even though I skipped the corporate world, I realized how many people were quitting the 9 to 5 to travel, and I met so many people on the road doing that, and the rise of digital nomads. And I was like, why are companies not paying attention to value that travel has on their employees? So I started studying for 2 years corporate wellness, which led me into business travel, corporate burnout. And that's how I sculpted my wellness travel coaching business, educating companies on the benefits of travel for their employee well being, in particular for business travel. And that was in 2018. As I was posting about travel coaching and writing articles on it, I had many people online reaching out saying, what's a travel coach? I might be interested. I might want to do it. I might be doing it. I didn't know there was a name for it yet. And because there wasn't a platform, that was the first time I Googled travel coaching. And I was like, you know what? If people are coming to me, they probably went to Google first, even though I never Googled it, even though I already registered an LLC for my wellness travel coaching business. And I Googled it, and everything that came up was about travel coach buses. And there was one article from 2008 about the potential that travel coaching has. And instead, again, of running from it, which would scare a lot of people, being like, it's not a thing, I got to change what I'm doing, I ran towards it. And I
Yeah.
then I'm going to start the Travel Coach Network. I'm going to create a platform, and I'm going to learn as much as I can. And I'm going to help others while I'm building my business. I'm going to help them build their own travel coaching business, whatever that might look like for them, because everyone cares about something different when it comes to travel.
You're such a go-getter. Honestly, you're so inspiring, the fact that you just carved out your own path in life. And so you've actually been named in 2023, wasn't it? One of the world's most influential women in travel by Travel Pulse. Congratulations. I think that's amazing. Why do you think it's important for women to shine in travel, especially nowadays?
It's funny that you asked me that question now, because I just got an email from, I'm on a newsletter list of the company Skift. Have you ever heard of Skift before? They are, to me, I kind of describe them, and this is not how they describe themselves, but I describe them kind of like the Forbes of the tourism and hospitality industry. So it's a publication, and it's a lot about like acquisitions and travel tech, or just anything for the corporate world, and especially corporate travel. And so I'm on their newsletter, and I just saw their lineup of speakers for their upcoming event. And I just took a look at it, and I was like, why are out of, I don't know how many people there were, maybe 30 that they showed in the email, two, I believe, were women. And
Really?
these are all executive roles, founders, CEOs, chief marketing officers, whatever, like top positions. And they were all like older white men for the most part, and like maybe one Asian and maybe one Middle Eastern. But I was like, there's two women in all of these. And one, I think, is the CEO of JetBlue, and then someone else. And I was like, I even showed it to my husband. I was like, take a look at this. Like, this is crazy. Like, it is 2024, and the people who are in these top positions running the tourism and hospitality companies, industry, who are decision makers, still are, these older white men. And that's why I think it's really important that there are more women paving paths, because we are creative. We are even though we're emotional, travel is emotional. So that's
Yeah.
why I think
And
the Travel Coach Network has done so well, is because we are adding that emotion and that human aspect back to the travel industry in a deeper way than what it's been done for so long. And that is why, I feel like the tourism industry is a very stubborn industry, so it's not easy to break barriers or cause some disruption without getting pushback, which I definitely get. But I think that it is, some people are fearful. Women are fearful of, like, I'm not going to be taken seriously, or my ideas are not good enough. But I feel like what I always say to my travel coaches, if you believe in something deeply enough, run with it. You have an idea, go with it and keep on going despite anything else that comes your way. Because if you believe in enough, but you're also building pillars of strength. So, like, studying industry trends, finding research that supports your anecdotal ideas, something good is going to come out of it.
that's so interesting, though, isn't it? Only 2 out of 30. Because the amount of women who are traveling solo has exploded over the last
It's crazy. Like,
few
the
years.
solo female travel industry is so much more
Yeah.
than men's industry. I don't know. I think and that's the same thing I noticed within the Travel Coach Network. We're about 95% women and 5% men. And that's organic. That's natural. That's just, we're not catering towards our messaging towards women or men. It's neutral. So it's just the actions that women tend to take, more of a community, more of a, helping others travel versus not. There's a disconnect between what's really happening in the travel industry when it comes to women and those decision making roles in these higher up in these bigger companies. There's some sort of disconnect there, and I don't know what that is.
I went to the Arabian travel market this month because it's held in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's the second year that I went there.
Yeah, I saw so many photos on LinkedIn from people who went there.
But it is very male dominated still. It's really interesting when you're walking around. It is a lot of men in suits, actually. And when I went last year, I met the only female CEO of a tour company in Pakistan, which was really inspiring. So it feels like maybe the travel industry is changing a little bit, but kind of slowly, but hopefully it's
Very slowly.
in
It's
the
a
right
very slowly
direction.
changing industry.
Yeah. But there are a lot more tour companies now which do cater for women traveling alone, which is great because I'm not saying that women and men travel is very different, but I think when women travel, they want more of a community and they want to visit more projects that are given back to the local people. And also, it's more of a transformational experience for women traveling.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see where the future of travel goes, when it comes to women. I think that there's a lot of need for women making changes. What I think there's a lot of power behind the changes that women can make in the tourism industry, and there's a lot of need for change in the tourism industry, because I find it quite interesting that since the pandemic, which is something that has never the way that it impacted the tourism industry is like anything else. It stopped it, shook it, flipped it upside down, and let it go, which opened doors for a lot of great new concepts that we have, like transformative travel, like slow, meaningful, purposeful travel, mindful travel. Wellness, self-care came to the forefront. Wellness travel is through the roof.
So important now.
And it
Yeah.
just shows the value that travel had in us. But the industry still goes back to its same old ways of how travel is marketed, planned, booked, sold, talked about, and run. And that is what we in the Travel Coach Network continue to try to, I don't always like to say disrupt, but, kind of break apart, because travel there's needs more heart, emotions, personalization, purpose, and innovation in a way that is not what's already being talked about.
Yeah, because it has the power to do good, doesn't it? Even though some people would say, well, maybe you shouldn't travel because of the carbon footprint. I think if you travel in the right way, it can really benefit you and it can benefit the local communities and the people that you meet on your travels.
Absolutely.
What would you say to someone who wants to travel alone but is actually feeling a bit apprehensive about it? And like I touched on earlier, maybe does suffer from anxiety as well. Because it was interesting when you said that you don't actually like flying, because I'm also the same. And I think people find it quite unusual because we've both obviously traveled a lot. But
Mhm.
if I don't have to go by plane, then I try not to. So what would you say to someone who's feeling quite apprehensive about it, especially someone who maybe has always traveled with a partner and now, their partner doesn't want to travel, or something's happened and they're by themselves?
Yeah, I think that if you I think a fear that women have traveling solo is that they're gonna be lonely, and I think if you open up your mind to seeing travel as an opportunity for connection versus being alone can help your mindset when it comes to any fears or limiting beliefs you have around doing something as like nerve-wracking as traveling solo. And honestly, it takes that one time for you really to realize how much you love it and the impact that it's making on you. Um, like I said, being able to stay in places that have the sense of community, like a hostel, or even just opening up yourself to have conversations with person sitting next to you on your mode of transportation or in the airport, or if you're on a tour, talk, you know, it's those relationships that we build and the decisions that we make on the places that we see that really help us make us keep on going, right? We're like, this is so incredible. Where else can I go? Like, look how amazing this world is. Look how beautiful this is. I want to see more. It's the reason why there's a thing of being bit by the travel bug, right? Travel does so much for us internally. And that's really where travel coaching comes into play as well, is like setting those intentions, setting those goals for your trip. Like, what are you really looking to get out of this? It's one thing just to go on a solo trip, but it's another to say, why should I be going on a solo trip? How do I want to feel? What do I want my life to look like? How do I, who do I want to become? And travel can provide you with a lot of those answers. But if you are setting goals and setting intentions, then you can make better decisions because maybe you didn't need to go to a big, busy city that's touristy, but you did because it's what options were in front of you, where people tell you should go. But instead, maybe you needed somewhere that it's a smaller beach town where, there's other digital nomads around and the local culture is very, enriching, where you can, eat the local food and get some sunshine and be in nature and meet new people and have fun. That really is what you needed for your soul versus, the hustle and bustle of a tourist destination.
Well, I don't know about you, but I find that with every single trip that I do, that's really good advice, by the way, but with every single trip that I do, I tend to need something different. So I
Mhm,
love what you're saying. It's just aligning your trip with your the personal development goals or what you want to
mhm,
achieve out of that trip. Because one time it could be wellness and spirituality, and the next time it could be culture or connection or something completely different. Because there are so many different realms to travel, aren't there? It's not just going and seeing landmarks and ticking them off your list. So I love the fact that you actually tailor a trip to what you want it to be, rather than I'm just going to go to Spain for 2 weeks.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's what I call and I teach my travel coaches called destination or experience matching. Like you understand the traveler on a human level. Like what are we really in need of? Because like you said, we are a different person every single time we travel. We have different
Mm,
things going on. Maybe we recently lost a loved one. Maybe we're going through a traumatic life event like a divorce or a heartbreak or loss of a career. Or maybe we're just at a place of burnout with our jobs. Maybe whatever it might be, we're a different person. So we're looking for something differently. And travel can provide us with that relief or those outcomes or those certain results if if it's brought to the surface, the awareness of what are we looking to get away from and what are we trying to run to? And therefore we can make better decisions on where to go and who to go with maybe, or, what type of experiences to have and how much time you need. All of these logistics of an itinerary can be more mindful when you bring awareness to your why for travel.
I love it. It's such a great idea. And it's great that you've just got other people on board and you've started their certification and everything. So what's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, we are expanding the travel coach network. That's always, something we've been working on. We have our flagship program. We're just at the cusp of having 500 travel coaches in our certification program. We've grown our community to over 50 plus countries. Now we're going to be translating our flagship program into other languages, starting with Spanish. And then we're also going to be integrating because we saw naturally an influx of travel advisors and agents come into the Travel Coach Network to learn how they can add more meaning and depth to their own travel business. We naturally thought it would be a fit to take our teachings and integrate that into the travel agents world through their already training. So we're working on we have another ICF accredited shorter program course specifically for travel agents that can help them enhance their how they work with their clients, broaden their client base, enhance their marketing, and really just add more emotions and depth to who they serve and how they help people travel.
Fantastic. I think that's something that's changed since the pandemic as well, is that people are now looking for more meaningful travel, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a reason why transformative travel is such a buzzword, right? There's organizations and associations centered around transformative travel, and there's a reason behind that. When we look at all of these terms, like I listed, transformative travel, mindful, slow travel, intentional, purposeful travel, even responsible travel, they're all covering as an umbrella this emotional, deeper purpose, meaning to travel, and the benefits that we can get from traveling, no matter what terms we use around it. And people are looking for it's shown like in research of where we spend our money and the companies we give them to and the experiences we choose to pay for have a lot more purpose behind them when it comes to travel than ever before. And there's reason for that. People are looking for some sort of specific outcome or change in themselves when they travel. And that's why travel coaching, we add that intentional goal setting aspect to it, because in order to have a transformation, you have to be aware of what you're trying to change first. What do you need first? And that part has been lacking in the industry. So we are working with our travel coaches on whoever it is that they serve. They all have different niches to really provide these true transformative travel experiences to their clients.
Right. And before we start wrapping up, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I'm assuming a lot of people here listening are interested in traveling solo. I might just be reiterating what I've already said, but we are the decision makers of our own life. And so if it's something that scares you, maybe it's something you should be doing, and take that leap of faith. And, you never know what could happen in your life, or who you'll meet, or what you'll become, or what you'll learn, and what you'll be inspired by, where your life could go if you don't try it. Give it a try. And this is the same thing in business. If you have an idea, go for it. Give it time and give yourself grace in the meantime, because life's not easy, travel's not easy, and business is not easy.
Yeah, and just embrace that unknown and just take that step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have one life to live. Why not do that?
Exactly. No regrets, like you said earlier. So where can people go to find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find us on thetravelcoachnetwork.com or the Travel Coach Network across all of the social media platforms. You can find myself as Sahara Rose, the Travel Coach, across all of the social media platforms as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Sahara. It's been so lovely speaking to you. Honestly, you're so inspiring. And I really hope that this interview inspires other people who are listening to it to take that leap. And I wish you every success in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me.
And you can find out more about Sahara on her website, sahararosetravels.com, or find out more about how a travel coach can help you, or if you want to become a travel coach, at thetravelcoachnetwork.com. Don't forget to download the Girl About the Globe app as well. It's a discount app specifically designed for solo female travellers, where you can get discounts to more than 40 different solo female brands. Go to the Apple Store or Google Play, just search for Girl About the Globe and download it for free. And I'll be back next week. In the meantime, safe travels.
Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.